Hey y'all, how's it going? So if you're new to the YouTube channel, that is how I traditionally started every single one of my YouTube videos because YouTube used to be my main platform. And then I hit my wedding year. I don't think I've uploaded a video in at least 6 months. I very much thought I was like, I'm not going to be that person that gets like overwhelmed by wedding planning. Oh, you will be. Oh, you will be. So here we are. We're within 6 weeks. So I got married in 6 weeks. We're giving all of the planning over to our month of day of coordinator in 2 weeks. And I feel like I have the time, energy, and mental capacity to come back to YouTube. So we're going to do a garden tour today. The funny thing is I've actually filmed like a comeback video probably 3 times. And every single time I've looked back on it, you can tell I'm like frustrated and mad and like frantic. And I just don't think it's fair to come to you guys with that energy. And it's not enjoyable for you to watch. It's not enjoyable for me to make. What, for the sake of uploading a YouTube video? Who cares? The other thing that's been happening over the last few months since I last uploaded a YouTube video is my Instagram kind of took off. I filmed some very feral garden tours that had a lot of cussing involved. And I almost have 50,000 followers, which is wild. But it's been fun. It's been fun to kind of continue to make content that's like less investment than YouTube and make some new friends along the way that just embrace the non-perfect gardening journey. If you're here from my Instagram, welcome. This was my OG platform. And I'm really excited to kind of get back to at least doing monthly garden tours. The other thing I've been doing while I haven't been on YouTube is I've been teaching in-person garden classes at a Veterans for Foreign Wars post in Austin. And it's been like so soul-filling to actually teach a class in person, meet with everybody in person, and connect with everybody in that way. It's been really special. So yeah, those are all the things I've been doing for the last 6 months while I have not been on YouTube. But I'm excited to get back. I've wanted to come back. Like I said, it's just the time investment in YouTube is much higher. And when they tell you planning a wedding is like having a full-time job, they are not lying. So let's catch up. Let's walk around the garden, talk about all the things. Yeah, I'm excited. So the other thing I forgot to mention that's been taking up a lot of our time is this little boy. This is Indy. We got Indy in December of last year. And he just turned a year old. And he has he's a very adventurous little boy, as his namesake. He's had to have his stomach pumped because he ate a coaster. He had to have x-rays last week because he did something to his knee and he was in so much pain he was shaking. He's fine now. Gosh, what else? He ate sweet potato vines that made him violently ill. Yeah, he's kind of a mess. So that's been taking up a lot of time too. But he is kind of my little garden buddy. He eats everything in sight. What, say I'm a basset hound. That's what I do. I love him, but he is an absolute menace to society. So let's talk about this bed. This was our original bed that was here when we moved into the house. We had to rebuild part of the fence over the summer because it was falling down, but that's actually a good thing because I can walk behind this bed, whereas before I couldn't even get a mower back there. So we also had to rebuild part of this bed because it is like literally falling apart. I think we'll probably fully rebuild it in the spring. But I do like the height of it. So I'm kind of starting to think about having some taller garden beds because even the big bed back there needs to be rebuilt. I'll show you the one side is kind of bowing out because there's no. Okay, so next we have to talk about this massively gorgeous thing, but I'm going to go stand next to it so you can actually truly see how big it is.
So to be fair, I'm not that tall of a person, but this thing's amazing. This is a Mexican torch sunflower. I love growing them. I've grown them for years. This is by far the biggest one I've ever grown. I got the start from a plant sale in South Austin, planted it in like late July. It looked terrible for like quite a few weeks, but it has taken off. It is gorgeous. I've seen so many pollinators, especially monarchs. Beautiful. So I definitely don't expect that thing to get so massive. And what we have over here on this trellis are some fall tomatoes. So I'm typically not a fall tomato girl. I just don't love the way that they taste. But I did not get a very good tomato crop this year for sauce, which I was really bummed about. So I think there's actually a couple that are blushing that we can pick. So I like to pick my tomatoes right when they start blushing, so that nothing else gets them before I do. And I know there's a couple over here. I will say I went back to my trellising system of like a wall trellis. 10 out of 10. I need to stop messing around with my trellising systems because it just works the best. And it works way better than this monstrosity we have going on, where I tried to use tomato towers that are really much better for indeterminate tomatoes. I attempted to use them for determinate tomatoes. Also, this variety is called Tyran. It's an early San Marzano, and looks like there's like an actual red one over there. So I'm gonna get these finished ripened and I'll get them in the freezer so that we can make more sauce. Now I have a few like fall-y things intertwined in here, but really I'm saving these two beds for garlic and onions. I did grow my onions in here last year. They didn't look amazing, but we also didn't have the amount of sun that we normally have, and sun is what triggers the onion bulb to actually make a bulb. And garlic. Now here's the funny thing, I don't remember where I ordered garlic from because you pre-order it, so still trying to figure that one out. I did get an email that I had a package coming from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, so it's either a phishing attempt and I got my shit hacked, or I did in fact order garlic from there and it's now coming to my house. Now I will say a very interesting thing is happening in this bed. These two tomatoes that are at the front of the bed look terrible. They look really bad. And I'm thinking it's a nutrient deficiency, but that's weird because like, why only at the front of the bed? How bizarre. So I probably could hit them with a little fertilizer, but truthfully, I'm probably gonna cut them down just to make room for other stuff. I also haven't been able to keep the weeds out of this bed. I have weeded this bed 3 times and mulched it, done all my stuff, and the grass is so aggressive that it just wants to grow. So this bed is kind of like my ugly stepchild right at this very moment. And that's just how it is, folks. Well, let's talk about the back fence really quick. My one rose bush that is in the corner, I think I officially feel good about the decision to move it somewhere else. It's not doing well. It's very like, that's at the bottom of the hill. It gets too much water. It's just like not happy. So the other thing that's happening right now, which see a whole video about in December, is I am growing my wedding flowers between my blackberries. So ultimate goal for the spring is I want this whole back fence to be a blackberry and rose hedge. Blackberries and roses, from my research, are very good companion plants, and they're actually in the same family. They're both in the rose family. So they do well with the same fertilizer, the same watering schedule. Like it should all work. We'll see what happens, but I'm pretty all in. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm probably gonna order 10 rose bushes at one time, which feels kind of insane. And I want to do like actual floral, like cut roses, not like landscape shrub roses. I'm starting to dive into the world of roses, and it's very detailed and it's a little scary, but I think it's gonna be great. I'm excited. So that's the ultimate plan for the back fence. And honestly, after having this garden for a little bit and like edging out the back fence, I'm very excited to have something that's more permanent, so that like in the summer when everything looks sad, we at least have like something. I don't like seeing my fence. I think that's like this weird thing that I finally come to. Like we put the grape vines up. I like having this whole back fence. Like I don't want to see the fence. I just want to feel like I'm living in like a little room of garden. So we'll get there slowly over time, don't worry. But yeah, so my wedding flowers are growing. We'll have a whole video about that journey. Right now, like I said, we have 6 weeks. Some flowers really want to bloom. Other seeds don't even want to fucking germinate, which is tragic. But yeah, I don't know how the journey's gonna unfold, but I'm making a video about it. So there you have it. This bed right here is where you can really see the bowing of the wood right here. It's really kind of like bowing out. It needs to be rebuilt. It just has a lot of soil in it. It's heavy, it moves. It's just the deal. Now I did put a Hail Mary winter squash in when it was still pretty hot. This is a candy roaster squash. Seems to be doing all right. I definitely have some other squashes that I put in other beds that got by some borers. That's just the name of the game. I am not in the place mentally to try and even prevent it, if I'm being honest. It's just my fall garden. I think the theme is only the strong survive. And I'm okay with that. Now, the other thing about this bed, and the reason I planted it the way that I did, is in my head, what was going to happen is there was going to be 2 walls of sunflowers for the wedding. And that's how that was going to happen. I'm having germination problems, so not sure if that's going to happen, but I knew this bed was going to be photographed because my wedding photographer is coming to photograph me cutting my own wedding flowers, which is going to be so special as long as I can fucking grow some wedding flowers. So then this other row right here, wedding flowers, and then in the front we have some brassicas. And then what's coming up right now is a row of green beans, and then I chaos sowed some beets and some radishes because they both grow quickly and they will be like nice and lush and green by the time this space is being photographed. So I have no idea if it's going to work out. If I'm being really honest, I'm currently in a place of doubt. Because we're 50 days out and these are 50 to 60 day pro-cut sunflowers, and a good amount of them haven't germinated. I put like 100 seeds over here. I haven't seen one of them. So stay tuned, see what happens. Over on this end of the garden, we just have some baby brassicas, a few wedding flowers here and there, and I've left some space for more garlic. So I really want to see how the garlic grows on this side of the yard versus the other side of the yard, because that's where I grew my garlic last year. So I'm kind of excited for that. And then I just left a couple of pepper bushes up. I'm probably going to cut a couple of them down, but my peppers did not do great for whatever reason. So I'm trying to get just enough serranos to make pepper jelly for the holidays. And we've pulled them here and there to like make salsa or like make other small stuff. But really my goal is to just get enough to make pepper jelly. And I've been putting them in the freezer as I've been harvesting them. So these beds should start looking really nice and fluffy and full probably in the next like month. It just cooled down like literally 2 days ago. I think the temperature today is it's supposed to hit like 80, and our nights are finally in like the 50s, 60s. So this is really when we start to see ideal temperatures. And the other thing about all the fall plants that I have is I did not start most of them, which is exceedingly rare for me. I am a seed starting girly, but this year just wasn't the year for it. I didn't pay attention to them. I didn't have time. I tried to put them out. They all died. So I went to my favorite local garden center and I spent $42 and I bought every brassica start that I needed. And I called it a day. And I refused to feel bad about it because my fiance keeps reminding me that this season is hard and there's a lot going on and that I can't expect myself to be as good of a gardener as I have been in the past. And thank God for him for reminding me of all those things, but I would be lying if I said it wasn't hard for me to accept that. So this is one of the squashes that is having squash vine borer problems. Like, the stem looks tragic. The leaves are all wilty and it's like 50 degrees outside. So this thing is probably dead, if I'm being honest. But there's some other squash plants that look actually super healthy. So I'm really hoping this is the only one that got nailed by the squash vine borer, because the other ones seem okay. This squash was a red curry squash, and methinks she's toast. Now, I'm sure it's feeling like I'm just talking about everything going wrong, but one thing that is going right, that I'm very excited about, is my green bean trellis. So last year I had the most glorious green bean arch, and I replanted that this year, and I'm really excited. It was just the prettiest, most lovely thing to like walk under this arch and just see all these beautiful green beans. So I mean, some of these are climbing like almost up to my height, which is fun. And now that the weather has cooled down, they should start like really putting on blooms and looking really fantastic. Now, something interesting that's happened is, I'll show you these peach trees here in a minute, but these peach trees have grown like crazy. I mean, like just crazy, which is amazing. But what that has created is, as the sun gets lower in the sky, which our house faces south, so as the sun gets lower in the sky, not only does our house kind of block some of the sun from the yard, but it also, these trees block the sun from getting over to this bed. So we are in like a partial shade in the fall situation, which honestly isn't that bad, because one thing that grows really well in partial shade is lettuce. So I sowed a bunch of different kinds of lettuces right here where it gets a little bit shaded. And I think that'll be a perfect place for lettuce to grow, because I eat a salad every day, love lettuce. I planted a lot more lettuce this year than I have in previous years. And so really excited for that, but definitely like I didn't think about that, about how they would get really shaded as these trees grew up. But it really only happens in the fall and the winter, because then once we hit summer, the sun is, directly overhead, and that bed gets plenty of sun. So just kind of an interesting thing about being in a space for a long time is kind of seeing those changes. Let's talk orchard. So it's hard to like actually capture all the trees in one shot, but all the peach trees are officially taller than me, which is super cool. They definitely need a little bit of like fall trimming, especially on the top. This tree was the cutting we took from the community garden like years ago. Their trunks are nice and strong. They had some gummosis issues last year that I feel like they're not having this year, which has been great. We actually got some peaches off the trees, which were like the best tasting peaches I've ever had. They were small, they were like this big, but they were so delicious. I mean, they tasted like a peach starburst, like just so flavorful. And so these peaches, they need some height management, but that's not a big deal. I'm just really so pleased with how well they've taken off. And actually, I'm very pleased with the kind of structure that this one specifically is taking on. I'm really happy with how it kind of has this like vase look, because ultimately, I don't want these peach trees to be like commercial orchard size. I want these peach trees to remain residential sized and stay manageable, because they're just feeding us. Like, we don't need them to like create pounds and pounds and pounds of peaches. We just need them to create peaches for us. So super excited to see how they do. I think the Sam Houston and then this one, they each only had one peach, and I actually both of them got stolen by a squirrel, which was tragic. So I'm going to be doing a little better at managing that this year. I didn't know that peaches actually ripen off the tree. So you can actually pick them a little early and then they'll ripen on the counter, which I think we will be looking into next year. That is a Tropic Beauty peach that I bought at H-E-B. It was probably a third of the size, like 18 months ago. And I bought it the same weekend I got engaged, and I was just like on a high. So it's my engagement tree. The rest of the orchard is coming along. It doesn't look as glorious as this half, but I think next year we'll see like a decent amount of catching up with the rest of the orchard. So let's talk about that. You can see some of the rest of the orchard in this shot. This is a pomegranate. We have some citrus. We have a satsuma right here. There is a Japanese lemon. I need to learn how to say it, but it's kind of a cross between like an orange and a lemon. It's a sweet lemon. And then I did get another Meyer lemon I know, call me crazy. But my strategy this year to get these citrus trees through the winter, number one, I have 2 satsumas that are both cold hardy, but the trick is they're not cold hardy until they get big, because their rootstock is what's cold hardy. So just something to keep in mind. But I actually was talking to my grandma about these little like tree jackets I had. She was like, have you ever, and she's a quilter, she was like, have you ever thought about like attaching cotton batting to the insides of these like frost things to like insulate them? And I was like, no, that's genius. The other thing you can do is put Christmas lights. Like, there are things you can do to get these trees to survive that I just didn't do last year. One of them being, the other thing I learned, I've been going to some fruit tree workshops, is not to actually give them citrus fertilizer, like not to encourage new green growth in the fall, so that when they head into the winter, the growth that they have is like nice and strong and lignified, which means it looks like wood and it doesn't look like fresh green growth. So my lemonade lemon has bounced back gorgeously. The other citruses are pretty small, so we're going to be doing everything we can to try and save them when it frosts, because ultimately it's Texas. We have extreme weather. There will be a frost at some point. And we're just gonna have to do our best. Now, before we talk about the grapes, the 2 new additions to the orchard, which are also more cold hardy than me having like a million citrus trees that are gonna die, is plums. So I got 2 plum trees. I did a partnership on my YouTube channel and a sponsorship with Sunsweet, the prune company. And I didn't know what prunes were made out of. And then I realized they were made out of plums. Then I started doing research and realized that there were parts of Texas that were known for their plums. And I was like, well, hot damn, that's cool. And so when I was doing this partnership with Sunsweet, part of one of the videos was I actually planted some plum trees, which is super cool. So now I have 2 plum trees. I have a Santa Rosa and a Methley plum. So with plums, you need 2 different varieties to cross-pollinate. And when I got them, they looked terrible. They had no green growth on them, and they looked like they were struggling. Turns out they just needed to be planted. So they're looking much healthier now, and we're growing plums, y'all. So I have officially promised Cam no more fruit trees. I think we're done with fruit trees, because we now have 3 peaches, 1 pomegranate, 1, 2, 3, 4 citrus, and 2 plums. So that is a total of 10. We have 10 fruit trees in the backyard. And honestly, I don't really think there's any more room. Like, literally, I don't know where else we would put one, based on like sun and just space. So I think we're officially done with fruit trees. All right, let's talk about these grapevines. So the grapevines have been super fun. Big learning curve. They were doing really well until they got hit with really bad whiteflies. And actually, not only have these gotten hit with really bad whiteflies, my blackberries, I mean, if you like spray the plant, the whiteflies just go pew. So the whiteflies it was an infestation. So we started spraying insecticidal soap. I got ladybugs, so we sprayed insecticidal soap, waited a month, saw a small improvement, but not enough. And so I got a bunch of ladybugs. I've definitely seen improvement now, which is great. But they're putting on a lot of new growth, but I'm now noticing that the new growth also has whiteflies. And the way that you know is that the leaves start to look like something's slowly drying them out. Those are the whiteflies slowly sucking out all the juice. So I'm excited to prune them for the first time. So once we get a frost and we lose the leaves, I'm excited to kind of get them pruned up. And they grew, I mean, way more than I expected. They seem to be really happy, but they just need to be managed a bit. We also need to add a couple more like layers of cabling, because I mean, one of the, like this one goes another like fence length and belongs to this plant over here. They need a little more space to move and groove, but overall, just big learning curve on the grapes. I was definitely overwatering them at one point, but really the whiteflies seem to really just get us pretty good. Now, the last area of the garden that you need to be updated about is the rain garden. So the rain garden for rainy season worked out great. Looked great throughout the summer. It's not doing so hot through the drought. We have officially had, I think, somewhere 50 something days without rain is where we're at right now. So I have been watering the rain garden, which feels really silly to water a rain garden. So Cam and I are kind of talking about doing rainwater harvesting. So we have a downspout at the front of the house right there, you can probably see it, and so we think we can do a rain barrel right there and then route the water to the rain garden, because it just feels really silly to have a perennial native except for the elephant ears, perennial rain garden that I have to water with city water, you know what I mean? So just rainwater in general we're really looking hard at, because Central Texas has just as much rain as Seattle per year. Look it up. It just comes all at one time instead of being gradual. So being able to harvest rainwater and like harness that is something I'm personally very interested in, especially for the summer months. So I want to do another rainwater barrel over here on the other side of the shed that we somehow route to the fruit trees. We'll figure all that out. The other thing that we're focused on too is preventing erosion and like using and absorbing that rainwater deeply into the ground rather than it just running all over the property and running away, which we're doing with the fruit trees, we're doing with the rain garden. I do want to have kind of like a matching garden on this side, but we'll see if I can convince my almost husband. He's put up with me in a lot of my garden projects over the last couple of years. And I have more requests, like, don't get me wrong. I have lots of things I want to do. But we'll see what happens. The elephant ear is definitely struggling. I mean, it looks nice from right here, but if you really get in there, there's a lot of it that's dead. The obedient plant has been phenomenal. Absolutely gorgeous. Some of the ferns are dying. The hostas, won't bother with those again. The longspur columbine is doing really well. The sea oats, the inland sea oats, I'm very excited for those to get like fully established. They're not fully established right now, but I think they're a gorgeous plant. Like once they are fully established, they're like super full. So I think next year for the rain garden is going to be a big year. Like it was a big year this year. I mean, I couldn't believe that elephant ear. At one point it was like almost as tall as the fence, and we have a 6 foot tall fence, so pretty cool. And that's that, friends. That is the garden tour as it stands today in mid-October. I love fall gardening. It's my favorite time of the year for the garden, and I'm feeling like things are getting back on track. So I'm gonna try and do a November garden tour. We'll see if I get to a December garden tour. I'm gonna be pretty busy. But yeah, we're gonna come back with garden tours and start to breathe some life back into the YouTubes. But I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you gardening, and being here for the long haul that is the journey of my social media life I've been on YouTube for almost 5 years, and I've been on Instagram for a long time. So, thanks for being there for the evolution of it all. So, thank you so much for watching. Happy gardening, and we'll see you next time.